Everyone is talking about AI. I don't think you can turn a corner without hearing anything about AI. AI is not a trend. The internet, some people thought, was a trend. It is now part of our daily lives. And AI is just the same. So the question is really not if, but who will lead it well. Someone's going to. Who's it going to be? Raise your hand if you don't know where to start when it comes to AI. Raise your hand if you feel behind. And raise your hand if you don't want to lose the human side. This is exactly what we're talking about today.
Welcome to Profits and Pints, where strategy meets great conversation and real-world action. I'm Samantha Doyle. Grab a drink, settle in, and let's dive into this month's big idea.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Profits and Pints, 1-year anniversary. Exciting. For those of you, I'm holding a mic today, which is really unfortunate because you don't get to see my elaborate hand gestures that I normally use. For those of you guys that don't know, my name is Samantha Doyle, owner of Strategic Business Coaching, and I just want to reflect for a second. I started this. Let me go to the next thing here. I started Profits and Pints because being a business coach, being really into strategy of business, I was going around to different networking events in the Eugene Springfield area, and there's a lot of networking events that are for business professionals. But I didn't feel like there was a space that was specifically for business owners and a place for us to be able to think strategically, to really wrap our head around how to be better business owners, and how to improve our lives as business owners. And that's really why I built this. And I'm so excited because when I first started, I thought, okay, I'll get a couple of people to come and it'll be great and we'll be able to nerd out on business. But it's really turned into this beautiful thing. And I want to thank you guys for that because I could not have done it without you. I would have just been sitting here alone talking about strategy and all by myself. But I obviously was not the only one that felt that. And so I want to thank you guys for being here, for continuously showing up and making Profits and Pints what it is today. So thank you guys for being here. And so today, we've done one panel before, which was back in October on growth through acquisition, and I thought it only fitting to do another panel. And everyone is talking about AI. I don't think you can turn a corner without hearing anything about AI. And so I thought it only fitting to talk about it. But I feel like there is a little bit different lens that I want to bring to the conversation today. Okay, so I'm going to kind of frame this a little bit before we bring up our panelists. AI is not a trend, okay? It is really infrastructure. So I actually went to this meeting that was hosted by the university. It actually was hosted by Linquist Business College just last month. And they brought in an economist from DC to the University of Oregon. And I got to sit on this. It was a huge room with a lot of high-end economists and professors, and I felt kind of cool to be in the room, if I'll be honest with you. And what they really talked about was, AI is the infrastructure of our economy now. It's not going anywhere. It's not some trend. When you think back, for those of you that were maybe around when the internet came, right? The internet, some people thought was a trend, right? But it's not a trend. It is now part of our daily lives. And AI is just the same. And so we want to be thinking about this as how it's shaping things such as labor markets, capital allocation, and competitive advantage. And it's really important as business owners to understand how is it going to impact us. And as I was in that room, I started thinking about this room. Because the reality is when we start to shape these things, it doesn't start in DC. It starts right here. It starts with the business owners, with the small business owners in the communities. And so I want you to be thinking about how you as a business owner are going to take AI and think about it strategically. Not reactively, but strategically. Okay? And that's what we're really talking about today. So the question is really not if, but who will lead it well. Okay? Someone's going to. Who's it going to be? Raise your hand if you don't know where to start when it comes to AI. Raise them up high. Raise your hand if you're worried about security. Raise your hand if you don't want to waste money. Raise your hand if you feel behind. And raise your hand if you don't want to lose the human side. Great, we're all in the right room. This is exactly what we're talking about today. So one of the other things that has come up quite a bit is my industry will be impacted, okay? And I just want to talk about this for a second because it's really important, is replacement is not the same as impacted, okay? Your industry very well may not be replaced, okay? And that's not what we want. But impacted, 100% be impacted. In some shape or form, it will be impacted, okay? And this is important to understand because there's speed, there's cost, there's accuracy, there's things behind the scenes that are happening that may not be the direct service or the direct product that you're thinking about, but it's still going to be impacted, okay? And that's where the change is really happening. So I'm introducing this three layers of AI, okay? And as we're going through this, I want you to be thinking about what layer you stand in right now. This is where I'm trying to simplify it for people. There's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of fluff and hype and all this kind of stuff. Let's keep it simple. Let's talk about the strategy, all right? So we have personal capability, operational leverage, and strategic advantage. Go through these one at a time. So the first one is personal capability. So the question I ask you is, are you using AI as a thinking partner? Okay, who's using AI as a thinking partner? Great, I love that. So really this is saying, you're not using it occasionally. You're not using it like Google, right? But you're using it consistently. I use AI every single day. Every single day. And I'm not afraid to say that because I use it every day because it makes me think harder. It makes me think smarter and it makes me think faster. And I love it, okay? And so you really want to have this personal capability in order to improve your thinking, your writing, and your decision making. This is the first level you need to unlock. There are some people that aren't even at this level. There are a lot of people that are not even at this level. And don't be embarrassed if you're not. It's okay. There's a lot of people. I would say the majority of people are not even doing this. But just identify if that's where you're at. The second one is operational leverage. Once you have been using it for the personal side, then you can start going into the operational side. This is where you have at least one repeatable workflow in your organization using AI. So this is where you're going to reduce friction, saving time, and reducing errors using AI. But it needs to be done intentionally. Okay, you're not just throwing up a random workflow in AI, you're intentionally trying to accomplish these things using AI. That's the second level. The third one is strategic advantage. Again, these are layers. So you want to accomplish them in order. If you haven't accomplished the first one, you shouldn't be doing the second one. If you haven't accomplished the second one, you shouldn't be doing the third one. Once you have some workflows in your organization and you're actually making things efficient using AI, then you can start talking about the strategic advantage. This is when AI is influencing how you're delivering value in your organization. So influencing your offerings, enhancing customer experience, and strengthening your differentiation. So you're creating that competitive edge. Now I want to clarify something really quick. That doesn't mean that you're not in chat trying to create a competitive edge with chat, okay? That's different than like using AI to create a product or a service that is the competitive edge, okay? It's a little bit different. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But this is something that is really more advanced and kind of the next level past creating these workflows in your organization using AI, okay? So those are kind of the three layers, and I'm trying to kind of break it down to think, I want you to think about where are you realistically, right? Where are you right now so that you can really digest what to do next? So that's what I just said. Okay, so personal, operational, or strategic. Where are you right now? So just to kind of wrap this part up, AI is a leadership decision. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, reactive is chasing tools. I'm not going to say that we're not going to talk about tools tonight, but that is not the intention of tonight. I'm not going to go up here and list all the tools and tell you which ones are best, and you know why? Because it's going to change next week. The point here is what is your strategic plan in your business? How could AI be leveraged in your business? If you can come up with a strategy of how you think it could be leveraged in your business, then look at the tools. But if you start tool chasing, you're being reactive in your business. So instead, be strategic. Think about what the strategy is. What are you trying to accomplish? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself. Then you can look at the tools. Okay? There's a million tools out there, right? It's not about the tool. The tool is important, but that's not the first step. And really aligning with, when you're being strategic, you want to align with the people, the processes, and what you're positioning in the marketplace is. Those are the three things you really want to be paying attention to. And then last month, for those of you that were here, we talked about energy, and we talked about low energy, repetitive work, and how those are the things you really want to automate in your business, and how those high energy human work things, those are the things you want to protect in your business. So this is another level of things when especially when you start to talk about automating things, and you start talking about where you want to put AI, look for those low energy tasks. Those are the things that you want to be intentional about creating automation or creating, where AI could really play a part in. And just a note here that AI should increase humanity, not replace it. All right, so we have 3 panelists today, and I'm so excited and so honored that they were agreed to come up here because all 3 of them are very, very valuable and very knowledgeable in AI in their own ways. And that is why I brought each of them. And as you'll see as I bring them up, they also align with the 3 different layers that I talked about, which was intentional. Vicky Kuchin teaches people how to use AI in a way that feels natural, practical, and human. She has worked with AI at Google and Microsoft, and she focuses on helping business owners build real capability, not just awareness. So everybody welcome Kiki, please. Woo! Next up, we have Alan Doyle. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a little bit biased. He is my brother. But Alan is the founder and CTO of The Nerd Stuff. He began programming at 15, built enterprise systems before he could vote, and today designs IT infrastructure and AI-driven workflows for businesses across the Pacific Northwest. He's also the person who will tell you when not to use AI. Alan Doyle. And last but certainly not least, we have Sean Riegler-Rios, is a small business coach and AI systems strategist who helps entrepreneurs shorten the distance between idea and execution using AI while keeping human judgment firmly in the loop. Everybody welcome Sean. The way that we're going to do this is I'm going to just go down the line, and I'm going to ask you guys each questions, and at the end, we're going to do an open Q&A, all right? So hold your questions, write them down. At the end, keep in mind, as you're asking the questions, think about kind of what layer does this fall in, right? We talked about the 3 layers. I want you to think about, is this the personal capability? Is this the operational leverage? Or is this, for my first question, for business owners barely using AI today, what does building real capability actually look like in practice?
Well, I think that's an interesting question because a lot of times when people hear capability, they think, oh, I have to know all the tools. I have to understand how things work under the hood. I have to really understand what makes AI work, or it's going to be hard. And the truth is, not only is it infrastructure, but AI is electricity. AI is a general purpose technology that what we build on top of it is what matters. And so really in this AI revolution, what really matters is all of us. Because what are we going to build on top of the AI when we learn how to use it? And so really the first step is you don't have to wire the electricity in your house. It's already there. But what you need to do is recognize the outlet and figure out how to plug into it. And so that's really step one of building that capability. And what that capability really looks like is, how do you work with a system that's an intelligence that can meet yours? So you could go in and say, okay, give me some marketing strategies for a small business. You might get a decent answer. You'll probably get a list. It'll probably be pretty generic. But what if instead you go in and say, this is my industry. This is my real customer. This is the problem I'm having. This is what I've tried. Help me solve this. Help me work through this and help me figure it out. And when you get to that point of really solving the problems with the AI, instead of just asking it for tasks, because a lot of people are at that task level, write me an email, summarize this document, and that's not the capability. The capability is really making it a partner that you think with.
That's awesome. I love that so much.
Me too.
I could ask you so many questions. I'm going to stay to the script for now. What's the difference between using AI like Google and using it like a thinking partner?
So the really interesting thing when ChatGPT launched is it looked like Google. It was just this little box on a screen, a little cursor blinking there, and nobody told us how to use it. And so it was just normal for people to walk up to it and go, oh, okay, I asked a question, I get an answer, and I walk away. And so the problem with that is nobody really explained, this is a conversational AI. And so what you do is you go in and you ask a question, and then you look at the answer, and then you refine it, and you keep asking questions. And so that's really the difference is Google will just give you an answer, but AI will help you solve a problem. So you bring problems, not questions.
I love that. And this is where I think this is really good. I had a situation just recently where I was talking to a business owner that I was working with, and I was giving him an example. I'll just be kind of specific on this because I think it was helpful. I'm trying to implement HubSpot in my organization. Okay, it's a CRM for those of you guys that don't know. And I'm looking at hiring an assistant to help me with this, but as of right now, I don't have anyone past Sky because Sky's elevated. And I'm like, I need to know what the steps are to do this. And so I had a whole conversation. This is a really long chat, okay, guys? And it's walking me through. I gave it all the different features I needed, like what the different aspects of HubSpot are, like all this different stuff. And I have it has got me locked. It knows exactly what things need to be implemented. It knows the order that I need to implement it. And I could basically just sit someone down in front of it and they could do the thing to do it, right? And I felt so good about it. I was like, this is great. I got it figured out. And I was talking to another business owner saying, hey, I did this, whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, I did that. It didn't work. And I was like, well, what do you mean it didn't work? And they were like, yeah, it spit out garbage. And I was like, okay. And so I started asking them questions. So before I go any further, what is your take on that?
So the problem with bad answers is they were bad questions.
Okay.
So, we hear a lot about AI slop. Oh, there's AI slop everywhere. It's not AI slop, it's sloppy prompting. Because the AI can do what you want it to do. And Anthropic, who makes Claude, recently released a paper that said, look, we look at what's happening. PhD level questions get PhD level answers. And so what you put into the AI, the work that you put into it, the context that you give it, is what makes it work for you. So if you're just, asked, how do I set up HubSpot? Well, then it probably isn't going to give you a great answer.
Mm-hmm. Right. You got to keep prompting. You got to push it. You got to challenge it.
You do.
I yell at my chat all the time, guys.
Yeah. And you have to get it to push you back too, right?
Oh yeah.
What am I missing? What are my blind spots? How are other industries solving this problem that I have? And so one of the really great things about AI is it will give you back what you need, but it'll also show you the things that you're not seeing.
But you have to train it to do that too. I think it took a long time for my chat to stop telling me nice things. And and seriously though, it's so nice. It tells you your ideas are like the most brilliant ideas ever. And
it's really your best type.
And I had to tell it to stop doing that. But it took a long time to get to a point where one of the probably most common things that I use is I say, play devil's advocate. Devil's advocate. I say it over and over and over again to the point where it just started doing it every time. So that's great. Anything else you want to add on that point?
Well, I mean, the thing is you do, the AI will become anything you want it to be. And that's both wonderful and kind of dangerous because we see that not working out great for some people. But the more context you can give it, not only about your question and your problem, but about who you are, how you solve problems, how you want it to work with you, the more that you can give it and show the AI who you are, the more it can reflect your patterns and make your work better and easier. And a lot of it is just figuring out your own mind so that you can then show it to the AI, and it can really become a good cognitive partner for you because it does reflect and expand, and where we want to get is just an extension of human capability. And so you want to get sort of that flow between you and the AI. I'm sure you felt it, where it's like that coworker that clicks, right? You just sit down, you work, you look up, and it's like, oh, it's dinner time, and it didn't feel like working, and look how much I got done, and look how much smarter I feel, and this, and this. And I saw this really funny thing from Ethan Malik, who wrote a book called Co-Intelligence, and he said, I hope people get ready for that shock, that when you really start to work with the AI, you're just sitting down for 7 hours, and you don't realize that you just did that. And it's true, I see it over and over again.
That's why I got a standing desk. But seriously, no, that's exactly what happens, and you get so much. So just for those of you that were here, I think it was last month, I talked about Working Genius, and I want to just kind of tie this in really quick because it's something that I personally have done that has been so helpful for me. And so those of you guys that don't understand this, I apologize, but I really want to tie it into those that do understand. In the Working Genius, I am an inventor, and I'm a tenacity, so I'm a taskmaster, and I miss the middle. Like it does not give me energy to discern my ideas. It doesn't give me energy to galvanize other people around these ideas. And I use the chat to help remind me to do those things. And I have told my chat to remind me to do those things. And so that's just one thing as you talk about this coworker that you click with is I have taught my chat to help me with the things that I suck at. Right? And chat's not going to be great at all these things, right? You still need people around you, but as an individual tool that can help me with my thought process, it's helping me with those capabilities that I'm not as good at or that I'm weaker at. And so that's something that I think is really beneficial for people to understand. What are the things that you're not as good at individually, and how can the AI help support you in those areas?
Okay. And I think the important thing to remember, because we are talking about human-centered,
yes,
is that AI can really free up your time, especially when you get to the automation part. It can free up and speed up the things that are not great so that you can focus on the human connections that are really the most important part of your business. Because the most important part for all of us is our clients and building those real human relationships with people, building those real human relationships with our friends and family. And so using and leveraging AI so that you clear out a lot of that stuff so that you have more. You're getting rid of some of the mental load, you're getting rid of some of the repetitive tasks, you're getting rid of a lot of that stuff so that you can focus on what makes you unique and human.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's just helped me expedite the things that I need to do so I can get to the things that I love to do.
Right. And what you can learn to do is really shape it the way that you have. But I probably could have helped you do it faster.
Oh, I'm sure you could have, honestly. I know you could have. So this has been great. And I guess my last question for you is, if someone only has 15 minutes a day, what is the right way to start building that skill?
So it's really having a conversation. Don't learn a tool. The tools come later. And so really sit down and ask it a question. Just ask a question of something that you've had on the back burner for too long or that's circling around in your mind that you haven't quite figured out. And challenge yourself to spend that 15 minutes having a conversation. Don't talk to it like a tool. Talk to it like you're sitting with a friend over coffee, one of your smart friends that you're going to bounce some ideas off of. You're going to come up with a solution. And if you can't think about what you want to talk about, I love to ask a wonder question of just why is the sky blue? Why do we forget people's names but we remember song lyrics? Things like that. Because what we really need to ignite, and the most important skill you're going to learn that's going to help you succeed with AI, is curiosity. And lucky for us, we were born curious. Babies put their feet in their mouths because that's how they can explore things. And if anyone has a child, you remember that day when they started asking why 50,000 times a day. And the problem with that, the only problem is that from a very young age, our curiosity is pushed out of us. And so really in spending these 15 minutes engaging with the AI and getting curious about what it can do is just getting that curiosity going. Oh, it can help me with this? I didn't know it could help me. Oh, can it help me with this other thing? And then as you get really comfortable with it, and as you see where it can push you and you can push it, that's when you really get to the point of, how can I use this in my work? How can I use this to clear away some of the things that I don't want to do? How can I look at the processes that I have now, or the workflows that I have now, and now that I understand AI, how can I mix those up and make them better? Because the truth is if you jump in too fast, you're just going to be making bad stuff faster.
Love it. Thank you. Everybody, thank you, Kiki. Okay, are you ready? For those of you guys that don't know, Alan is an introvert, and I made him sit up here. But he has such...
I
yes.
had no option other than to show up. I wasn't given a choice.
He has such a wealth of knowledge that I wanted him to share it, honestly. He is the nerd in the back room. And so here's my question for you, okay? Alan, with your experience designing and building systems for businesses, how are you seeing AI show up in the tech stack today? And can you walk us through some real examples of how you're using it at the Nerd Stuff or with some of your clients?
Well, let's see here. There's a lot. Obviously, everybody really loves to use it to write emails. That's like the first thing everybody uses it for, I feel like. As far as, what was the second half of that?
It's okay. What are some examples of some workflows that you've built in the Nerd Stuff or with clients, or like people are asking you to build?
So there's some of the basic ones I've built are menial tasks that just are time consuming but super repetitive. So like servers have a list of users, so like auditing the users, and if they haven't logged in so many days, so like 30 days, it just locks them out because it's just assuming that they don't work there anymore, because obviously some clients don't tell us that they get rid of people, which can get annoying. So try to close the back doors to their servers before they become bad holes for people to get into. So that's kind of where I've been seeing it most of the time so far.
And then I know that with the software that you built 10 years ago, you've been implementing some AI or starting to build some AI into that as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I built some software 10 years ago when AI didn't exist, for the public side of it at least, as I'm sure you would say. So I've actually been using Claude Code to...
Sorry, yay, Claude.
Yay, Claude, yes. Claude's good for programming, for sure. I've been using it to like improve it and kind of optimize it, as I was saying, throw some lipstick on the 10-year-old program because it looked terrible, which it actually helped find some bugs that I wrote when I was 15 or whatever, so that was cool. I was like, oh, yeah, that's definitely a bug. So that's kind of cool.
And then we have had a lot of conversations about this, and so I want you to talk a little bit about where does AI belong and where does AI not belong when it comes to workflows?
I'm gonna start with the not belonging, because that's so much easier. If it's a decision that is important, you should not involve AI. Not at least to make the decision. You can use it to help make the decision, but don't use it to make it.
Can you give me an example, please?
I don't know. Like,
Well,
there's a lot.
use the client that we were looking at. You were building the workflow. You just quoted it. What was that? Use that as an example. There was a certain point where it was reading documents versus not reading documents.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some regulation side of things where if it's, if there's credit card information or public health information, don't put that in AI, unless it's in your own server, in your own building, and very contained. Still wouldn't do it even if it's there, if you can avoid it. If it's something you can do without AI, which you can do a lot without AI, then you don't have to. It's more structured that way, and you'll get, so trying to put it in a way, if you can give it one set of input and it's an expected style of input, then you can use programming languages to get the expected output.
It's like an if-then, right?
Yeah.
If this happens, do that.
Yeah,
That's
so,
not AI.
No, that's not AI, and 100% reliable because it only does two choices and that's all it does, whereas AI will think about it and it might change and give you something else randomly, and you're like, that's not what I wanted, and for a whole wrench in your whole plan. So
Well, and some of the workflows, so Alan and I, he owns the IT company, and I actually used to be a partner in the IT company as well, back in the day. And so we've worked on quite a few workflows together, and there's a few workflows that we worked on together where, I've seen people that say, just turn AI on and just let it run. And it's like, no.
Don't do that.
Because there's a lot of things, and this is where I just want people to understand this, where it's not just use AI to create the workflow and the AI is through the entire workflow. That is not how it works. There's this thing called like if-then statements, or there's lots of other things, but I'm going to simplify it to that right now, that is automation, and that's been around for, I don't even know how long, honestly, forever.
You could have AI do the whole thing, but you really should not.
No,
It won't end well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why you want to do that. And so the thing that Alan and I have talked about is AI is really good at, like reading documents or organizing messy data, right? So if you have really messy data and you need it organized, AI can do that really well. But then once the data is organized, then you're going to say, okay, now that you have the data organized, do this and do it in a specific order. And that's just really a workflow. That's not AI.
So a simple example is we got a client that likes to send, oh, hey, I've locked my account out at 2:30 in the morning. I don't want to work at 2:30 in the morning, so I have it AI read an email on this ticket that comes in and say, okay, give me the username that is locked down. And then you take the AI output, and then you run a script and say, okay, give me all the users that are locked, and now compare that. Is it actually locked? Because then you can sanity check AI and say, okay, yes, that person's actually locked. Now we can do something with it.
But the only part of it that's AI is reading email.
Yeah, reading the email and give me the username, because it's somewhere in this giant email and it could be in 500 different formats. And you're like, I just need the username. That's all I care about.
Well, and the other part of this that I think people are not realizing is if you're using AI for the personal capability, most of you are probably not hitting your limits. You may, but if you're buying a subscription, you're probably not hitting your limits. So you're not really dealing with what are they called? I don't even know what they're called.
Tokens.
The tokens, thank you.
I hit those daily.
I know, I do too. So you're not dealing with pain up the wazoo, okay? But when you start to think about having workflows going on in the background, and I don't want to get too technical here, but I just want you guys to understand this, okay? If you think about a machine running your chat on automatic in the background over and over and over, you're gonna hit your token limits, okay? It's gonna start to get really expensive if you aren't self-hosting, which we're not getting into right now. And so AI can start to be really expensive. So there's a lot of reasons to not just turn AI on and let it run, right? So there's the fact that it'll hallucinate, right? If it's sitting here and it's being used to make critical decisions, it may not make the same decision every time. That doesn't make sense for a workflow. So you really want it to be used only in key points, not the whole thing. And then there's the fact that it's going to get expensive, right? And so those are two really important things that I just want people to understand, especially if you're thinking about using it to create workflows and create efficiency in your organization. Don't just go buy some AI thing and turn it on.
There's also security there where it can be susceptible to prompt injection, where you give it human input and then that person says, hey, now I want you to do this task instead. And then it just starts rabbit trailing down and doing other things, which there's ways of stopping that, but you gotta account for all of it.
So it just kind of comes back to the being intentional, right? Like if you're gonna create efficiency in your systems, which I highly recommend doing, right? And AI is a way to do that on the back end, right? Especially on the back end of your organization, where it's not necessarily customer facing, because that kind of holds that human-centered that we're talking about here. But you really want to be intentional about how you're doing it. And honestly get support in doing it as well to make sure that you're doing it in a way that isn't going to make AI hallucinate and mess up all your workflows. It's really, really the important thing. Another thing is, Alan, that we talked about is processes. And so what's the importance of having good processes when you're doing this?
If you don't know how to do it, then you can't write a program to do it because it's just not going to go well. And if you know how to do it, but it's a really bad way, you're still going to be doing it bad the whole time automatically.
Yeah, so don't automate crap, basically.
You don't automate crap. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it.
It's kind of like garbage in is garbage out. Well, you automate crap. You're automating crap.
You're just making it faster.
You're speeding up the crap. Okay, that's a really nice
And then
way
you're going to have even bigger of a mess to clean up.
Yeah, so you really, if you're gonna automate, you really wanna make sure that you have solid processes, that these are repeatable processes that everyone's following in your organization, and that they're kind of proven, right? You've proven these processes are the most efficient way that you can make them. And even when you start to implement the AI, you're probably gonna change it, right? You're gonna find more efficient ways for sure. You're going to, but you wanna get it as close to efficient as you can without the AI. Otherwise, the hill's even longer, harder, taller, whatever the word is. More complicated, let's just put it that way, sorry. Okay, great, thank you. And then I feel like there was one more thing, Ellen. I think that's pretty much it. And then the other thing is, I guess, did you just have one more example of, you talked about, no, I think that was it. Actually, you already talked about it. Okay, never mind. Everyone, thank you, Alan. Thank you for putting up with me. Okay, Sean, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you up here. So my first question for you is, how can AI change the way a business delivers value to its customers?
That's a great question, and I have to say that I am a strategic thinker, and this is probably going to be one of the only opportunities I can actually talk strategically, because most people want concrete, they want those not the abstract thinking things. Anyway, it's a great question. One of the things that you have to recognize is that what you do right now as a business owner offers value to your customers. Okay, AI can assist with that. That's the question. Okay, for each one of you, it can do it any number of ways. It can help you make your, communications with your customers faster, through emails, or writing content and so forth. It can make it so that your operations are more streamlined and faster and so forth, so that value you give to that customer happens in a way that's more consistent, than you're doing it right now. It can help with things that are falling through the cracks right now that you don't have time for, don't want to do and so forth, that can be actually value added for your customer. Okay, the starting point is what you're doing that adds value now. And then you look for how AI can support that. And I agree with everyone up here where they're saying, do not let AI be the decision maker. And for me, I would say ever. Okay, we're up here because humans have to be in the loop, not because it's a nicety. And that means when it's in your business and it's delivering value and whatever strategic purpose you give it, you are always the decision maker no matter what. So the value comes from the improvements that AI can give you by making things that you either can't do or don't want to do better, faster, cheaper, stronger, etc. Okay, the key part is the value you already do. You don't go like they were saying and find a new tool. You don't find a new process. You're already doing it. Start there. Okay, start where you are. Think about what you're doing that the customer experience is saying, this is working, I like this, I want to keep it going, or I want to do more of it. And think about, how can AI help with that? How can AI help me to make that more consistent, or whatever the problem may be? Okay? Keeping it real, keeping it concrete. Does that make sense?
I love that. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. And then what does it look like when AI becomes part of a company's competitive advantage?
So what happens is that, at least now, so I guess there's a couple of things you need to understand, because AI is a constantly moving target. We're entering the age now where we're going from how intelligent the models are to artificial workers. So right now it's about operations. Okay, so that's where AI is moving to, and it's about how AI can help your operations make you more competitive in some way. And they can do that in a number of ways. But AI operations is more than just a task. It is more than a workflow. Okay? When you're hearing that AI can do things behind the scenes, right now the average time that an AI worker can do a task without breaking down is 10 hours. The doubling time is every 6 months, which means 6 months from now, it'll be 20 hours before it will ever break down. in what it's doing. Think about what that could be doing for your business operationally, the workflows that it can be doing. Claude just introduced something called Loop, which now you can schedule tasks. You can actually schedule those things going on, when they come on, how they come on, and so forth. So now you can schedule your 8 o'clock in the morning, I want this AI agent to do this. Imagine that. Operationally, that means accounting, that means HR if you have employees, that means your day-to-day routines, whatever it is you're producing your product or service, and it can be marketing. It can be anything in those operational areas, but we're beyond tasks now, folks. We're beyond workflows. Okay, we're talking about integrating into whole different parts of our business now, and that's where AI is going. Okay, so the competitive advantage comes when it works for you and your business. That's where it's at, and you don't stop until it does. Okay. Now I know I'm looking at, and all of you are like, okay, what is he talking about? It's okay. First of all, everyone starts wherever they are. Okay. Just accept that. We all had our beginning, everybody's gonna have one. So just start. Get over the fear factor and just start. And even though I'm saying, operation, like it's a whole big thing, start small. You heard that up here too. Start with something small that can help. Let's start. Okay, because that's where the industry's going. It's about operations now. We're not just talking about little things now, we're getting more confidence that these things can actually work and work effectively. It's not perfect, but we're starting to look at operations now. That's where the competitive advantages are going to be, where you can have your AI agent do your bookkeeping for you, or part of your accounting, or matching categories in your chart of accounts, whatever the case may be. That task is now done for you. And because of that, your time's free to go back and do those value-added stuff. So, but it's also about leveraging that knowledge that you all have about your value and making that better as a source of competitive advantage. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that one thing that AI will not be able to replicate is your unique local knowledge. People, places, timing, special circumstances. That will always be yours. AI can't touch that. So you as a local business owner have something here in this community that AI cannot replicate. And that can be your advantage. Okay, and there's more. But you've got to start thinking about, again, value first, always. What is it that I do well, and how can I help you to do that? Long answer.
No, I love it. That's so helpful. You kind of answered this a little bit, but maybe I'll say the question really quick and I might add to it. What is one opportunity you see right now that most businesses are underestimating? And I might just add maybe like a specific example of a business you've worked with or just an example of how they added value to their business.
I think that what happens is that it happens when the owner starts thinking differently. That's really where it's at. When you start seeing somebody that sees AI as more than just a Google search and they actually start building something, they turn a corner. And that's because they're thinking differently now. They're not just thinking out, do I need an answer? I have a question, what's the answer? Now they're thinking, oh, I can build this now, and I can do that. So I've got a client up in Portland that was looking at expanding their business, and I had them do a survey, which I typically do of their client base. They used AI for it, and AI extracted patterns they didn't even think of. They didn't even see in the data. And they said, you know what, I never would have thought about that. But these people are actually looking at us for this, and we never would have saw it. One of the things that AI can do is with every word you put in, there's like about 12,000, 20,000 connections in this higher dimensional space that it can connect to. So it can see all of these relationships instantly that you can't. I say it makes the invisible visible, and I use that as a tool all the time. So it can see value that you're providing you may not even be aware of. So when you ask it a question, don't just look for your standard answer the way you would think about it. Look for what it's telling you that you might not have thought of, that it's telling you something that may be different or slightly differently worded than what you would have expected. Because it's probably telling you there's more there. Dig into that.
I love that so much. It made me think of something I started doing with my clients that's been really helpful is, so we record all of our meetings, even if we're in person, we transcribe everything. And I started creating like just a combination of all the transcriptions, and I'll have it do an analysis on the business and say like, what are some holes? What are some opportunities? What are some things that we're not thinking of or that we're not talking about or things like that? And it's been huge because it's been really helpful to be able to just like give ideas of different things that we're not thinking about, just even in, the combination of the leadership team and myself. And it's kind of that same thing of like, it's just opening up our eyes to things that we didn't even think about.
I'll give you all example that all of you can do tonight. If you have customer reviews or if you know a business that has a bunch of customer reviews, ask the AI to analyze it. Ask it for what the value proposition is in those customer reviews. Tell it what is the central value proposition in these 65, 100 reviews. And what you will see is the experience that business is giving every single time, and what's working to its customer. And I bet in most cases the business owner doesn't know.
I love that. Thank you for that.
One of my tricks.
That's a good trick. That's a good one. All right, everyone. Thank you, Sean. So we're going to go into Q&A. So if you have a question, please raise your hand.
So I think I already know, Kiki, what your answer to this would be, but what is each of your favorite chat GPTs or AI softwares available right now, and why?
So my favorite is Claude. I actually recently switched to Claude from ChatGPT. I will throw out there that I got my 2025 stats and I sent 17,700 messages that another intelligence responded to me, so I have a lot of experience with the tools. I did switch to Claude because for me it aligns with my values more, and it was created with safety in mind from the very beginning. I find Claude to be better at business and making good decisions in business. I think ChatGPT is maybe a little bit better at brainstorming, but I say if you're going to pick one, I would say Claude. Claude has some really amazing things that have just come out. Cowork came out about 3 weeks ago, and you download that on your computer and you can work through, give it access to your files, work through something that you're doing, and then ask it to build a skill that you can then call up in the chat. And if you have Claude, go to the little name at the bottom and there's a little download thing. Download the Claude for Chrome extension and then just try it out because it can do pretty amazing things. You open it on a page and you tell it what you want it to do. It'll make a plan for you, ask if that plan is okay before it executes it, and then you can watch as it moves around on the web page for that stuff. It's very cool. But anyway, Claude. Your turn. Oh, it's cool.
What do you mean my turn? Are we asking all three?
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, I'm also Claude. Team Claude. I use it for programming. This is my main thing. It's way better than ChatGPT at programming. I attempted to use ChatGPT for that. It did not go well. Yeah, Claude. It's my favorite. I don't really have much to add other than that.
I actually use all three. I use ChatGPT, Claude, and now I'm starting to use Gemini, but I use them in different ways. So ChatGPT's always been kind of a workhorse for me. So I'm on there usually every day for hours and hours doing kind of the, grinding something out, some new code, new app, new whatever. Claude I use because, again, I tend to burn through the tokens really fast. So I'll use that for coding and really particular either scientific or business related questions. So I kind of reserve it for I want to bring out the big guns. So Claude's kind of my big guns. Gemini, I'm starting to realize, is really good at finding information and summarizing information that is specific enough that I can use with the other AIs. It's more detailed and more concrete, and I tend to like that. And I've not been a Gemini fan up till now. So
I'll add Gemini is better at visuals.
yeah.
It's a lot better.
Oh, Nano Banana.
Wow, I don't know.
Yeah,
Use it now, but I don't know it's better.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
So I've mainly been using Claude as a research assistant, and it does a really good job when I ask it scenarios. Usually they're around client-specific questions without identifying information. I'll ask it to go do the research, give me a summary and then give me links to all of its research so I can quote IRS code or whatever. So I'm not just taking the AI summary for obvious reasons. I don't know how to break the barrier from taking it out of a text box. You keep saying automating everything. If I let an agent out of the box into my computer, how do I keep guardrails on it so that it doesn't do what I don't want it to do, which could cause serious problems?
Safety, that one's really good. I'm the guardrails. You know, it's like when you put it, you're the one that decides what Claude can do when Claude is on your desktop. You have to approve every workflow that it does, and you do that to your level of comfort. Because these tools, we're very early in a lot of these things. They're getting launched week by week. They're being developed really quickly. We have AI building AI tools now. And so safety and security really is a big concern. And I don't have all the answers on that. I know that there are answers out there of, you know, this is the level of security that we have. Anthropic releases a lot of papers about what they're doing. And there are some places within the application that you could look at in the settings of security of how you want to set those things up to work within your machine. And then if you're downloading something like Cowork, you decide, it only has files that you give it access to. And so you'll say, okay, well, here is this folder, and I want you to look in only this folder. You're not allowed to look in anything else. And I want you to do this task on this machine, or I want you to do this task and go on to this specific place on the internet. And I think that at this stage, especially in AI, we really do just have to be vigilant about what we let it do. Because the more you work with the AI, the more easy it is to be like, oh, these last 5 things were right, so I kind of trust that everything is going to be all right. And we really do have to stay vigilant that it is an AI and it makes mistakes, because the one thing that AI does not have is judgment. So it doesn't really know the difference between a right answer and a wrong answer. It just kind of answers the question as correctly as it can. And so it's really up to us to keep an eye on what it's doing, figure out what we want to do, work through the problem, and put the guardrails on where we want to. And for me, I like Claude because it's built with pretty good guardrails in the first place. It's something that they take seriously as they build their tools. Did that answer your question? I get close. Your turn.
I'll start with a couple things, because governance is what I've been really working on in terms of keeping AI, you know, doing what it should be doing and not doing other things that it shouldn't be doing. First premise, I don't trust anything that AI puts out. And that may sound a little harsh, but it has to prove it to me. And one of the things that I've learned is that I have to have it grounded. So what I do is a process called pairing, where I'll take and I'll make sure that any facts that I'm going to use in any certain decision or process is grounded with something that I know is factually true. And I tell the AI that that is your source of truth, and you cannot go and change that in any way. You can't morph it, you can't hallucinate on it. It is a source of truth, it has to be. What I try to do is box the AI in. Try to get it so that it is not hallucinating things and processes as much as I can. And then I have a certification process where it basically has 3 decisions for anything, any process that it uses with grounding. It either certifies it because it's been shown factually true and it can show that to me, it's transparent. It puts it on hold if there's any question about it, if it can't certify it, and it rejects it outright if it's not true. Now that's my own process, but the idea is the same, is that you start with not trusting anything that it does and making it prove everything to you, and you are the final decision maker, the final source of judgment. So if I were doing a research agent like you're talking about, or a research tool, I would have it go through and I would say, okay, here's your source of truth. I'm going to ground this. So these are the facts that you're starting out with. These will not change in your process. And then have it start to extend from those facts, from those sources of truth, and move forward with there. And then make sure that everything is checked so that if there's any source of discrepancy, one of the things it'll do in a chat is drift, right? It's one of the important reasons you need to have definitions for what you do, keep things consistent, because it'll actually morph slowly in the chat if you're not watching it. So if you ground it with a source of truth, you're preventing it from doing that. You're restricting it in what it can do. And so your process, I use Python to control it. I'll use frameworks to control it. I'll use different things to make sure that it can't move beyond a certain point. And it only gives me things that are factually true, or it can show me. I don't want anything that's black box or that's invisible. Everything has to be there. I have to see it or I don't trust it. So that's where I would start, is just saying, first of all, any research you get has to be proven. And what are the facts behind it? More than just links. What is it really grounding itself on? And check it. Start with that and then move forward.
I do have one quick thing to add. So if you're doing your research and you get your research and you're not sure about it, give it to another AI and have it check the work.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of make them adversarial to each other. They actually do this in training, but we won't get into that. But you can kind of pit one against the other and say, okay, I'm not sure if I trust this, check all of these things. You can actually run it through the same AI again to have it sort of double check its work, and those are kind of simple things that you can do just to make sure that you're hitting all of those. But really, if it's an important decision that you're making, an important judgment, you're gonna have to read through those links to make sure that because it'll make up links. It'll look like it's giving you a legitimate link and you click on it and it doesn't go anywhere, or you follow it through and it doesn't actually say any of the things that it thinks it says, so. Yeah.
Right, so as a tool, as a research, I'm used to doing research in my career, but I was more speaking of the automated and the agents. It sounds like you all three are comfortable with coding and language without most of us getting too deep into becoming a software engineer and the nerd stuff. How do you implement agents without setting Python in place for frameworks? That was more the original question. Like, automate sounds fine if you're somebody who's deep in that, or from somebody who's not.
So to do that, you're gonna want to consult, honestly, is the best way. I mean, if you're willing to learn it all, there's tools out there. Zapier. There's a free one called N8N that does it. I'm gonna tell you right now, the learning curve of that is fun. You can do
Alan
it.
told me it was easy. It was not.
It is easy if you understand.
It's easy for him.
If you understand.
So as you guys all use Claude, you'll find if you guys catch AI in a lie, the first sentence it's gonna say is, "You're absolutely right."
Yeah.
And you'll learn to absolutely hate that sentence.
Yep.
Drives me nuts.
Well, and I'm just gonna say this because Alan knows how to do this stuff, and so I try to do it myself, and then give up and have Alan help me very frequently. But Zapier is a way that you can do this. It is somewhat intuitive. You can kind of build out the workflows and have AI do it. It's not always intuitive. And so you still kind of do need that little bit of background knowledge of how kind of the infrastructure works. And so even with Zapier, you can ask Alan, I started building something, I'm like, this isn't working, I don't know why, and I'm super frustrated, Alan, fix it. And so it's hard because we're just not at the point where it is easy for someone who doesn't understand that infrastructure to do it on your own yet. I feel like we will get there, but I just don't know that we are quite there yet.
So
But I hope we will.
I'll add, so like with some of my programming experiences, I'll use AI to help me like integrate two different pieces of software with using their APIs. I will give it the link to the API documentation and says, if the answer is not on this page, you're not allowed to give me the answer, because I've used AI and I didn't tell it that before, and it's like, oh yeah, you just use this query to get that answer. I'm like, that query doesn't exist. You just made that up. And it's like, you're absolutely right. And I'm like, all right, from this page only.
I was just going to say that OpenAI has a program now for scientists doing research. That might be something to check out, where they're actually doing that, where they're creating kind of an agentic system for actually doing research. They're really trying to get into that space, to start getting into more deeper mathematical and physics types of topics. I would look there and see if your particular research area might be there, a part of that, because that's what they're doing, is they're creating a space where it's actually more solid in terms of the answers that you get.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, so I've probably been running businesses longer than anybody in the room, probably 30 years. I want to bring this back to the human side a little bit.
Yeah.
When you're looking at something new like AI, bigger than the internet, we would agree. I wonder, and my question is, I wonder, from the area that you're coming from, what does a business owner do that's trying to put a 3-year plan together? When things are moving at such a pace that you don't even know what next week might look like when it comes to what is happening with AI, how do you build a strategic plan around an evolving movement, an evolvement industry that's going to be here forever, to do long-term planning? How do you be very strategic? We've talked about tactics, we've talked about how to learn a tool, how to use a tool, how to make it a differentiator for your business. But what does a business planning unit do with how fast this is moving? What does 5 years look from now? What are you telling your kids about AI that their world will look like? What are you telling your grandkids about AI that the world will look like? What are you telling people that think they're going to lose their job to AI?
I loved your first question. The second one, not so much. In terms of the strategic planning, here's something I think you all should pay attention to. AI has not changed how we do business yet. And what I mean by that is the way you build a business is pretty much the same way you build a business, even in the age of AI right now. Now, that's not going to stay that way, I think, in the years ahead, and I already see the signs of it. But for right now, you build a business the same way you've been building it now. It's just AI helps you to do it faster, cheaper, stronger, whatever. It's still about your goals. It's still about the life that you want to have. It's still about the people and the things that you care about. That doesn't change. AI doesn't change that. It doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change what matters to you and what's important to you. So if I were telling someone that, let's do a 3-year strategic plan, I'd say, okay, how do you want your life to be 3 years from now or 5 years from now? Just like I did 10, 15 years ago. Now, beyond that, it's how AI changes that to help them get there. But the goals are your goals. It's still your life. So you're the business owner. Now, what do I tell my children and others long term? I tell them that AI is going to change the world in ways that they have not even imagined yet, and it's going to change it sooner than they thought. And that they need to start learning now. Because from what I've seen in the deep dives that I get into and the worlds that I've seen, I do things now. 2.5 years ago, I was like all of you, doing business plans and financial models and so forth, just the way the world usually does them. Now I do nothing the same way. I'm at a completely different place. And it continues to evolve daily. Daily. Daily I will have either something improved, I will have a breakthrough, or I will have something changed. Nothing stays the same on my desktop every day. And when you think about that kind of curve and what it does to you as a person, as what it does to your business, it's mind-boggling. So I'm here to tell you, no matter what you thought about AI, your resistance to it, your reluctance to it, whatever it may be, that what it can do right now, if you really knew, would completely blow you away. It is beyond anything you probably ever imagined, as it is right now today. The only reason you're not seeing it is what we talked about earlier, which is the questions you have to ask have to be at that level to get those answers. If you're asking basic questions, you're going to get basic answers. If you're asking PhD level questions, which I do every day, that's what you learn. So you get what you ask for. Whatever your questions are the answers you're going to get. But I'm here to tell you, what I've seen, I don't see how any business owner in the world can ever compete against somebody using AI. I just don't see it. And I think some of the things I could show you would probably scare you to death, so I'll stop with that. But I like the first question.
I'll answer the second question. So my daughter is 8. She really only plays with Sora, which is it's kind of like TikTok but generated images. She makes a lot of cats saying 6, 7. And when I tell her about the future, as we kind of, how is she learning, what is she doing, I really focus on, can you ask a good articulate question? Do you know how to ask for what you want? Can you stay curious about the things that you want to learn about? And can you look at something and see, does this feel right or does this not feel right? And so those are the kind of skills that I'm trying to help her build, because that's what's going to be really important in the future, because that's the part that we're going to give as humanity. A lot of this other stuff, paperwork is kind of dead. A lot of this other stuff is going to, be going faster, but Sean is absolutely right, because when I say AI is electricity, it truly is. It's a general purpose technology, so it can be used for everything. We are at like 1880 right now, where electricity just dropped. We're afraid to put it in our house because it might burn it down, and we're never going to see a microwave coming. So when we started putting lights in the house, nobody would have imagined, oh, okay, one day they're going to make this little box that heats up my food in 30 seconds. Like, no. And that's why we say we're moving toward a future that we have no idea what it's going to be, because we've built a kind of technology that we don't know what people are going to be able to build on top of it. And I can tell you that right now, if they stopped AI development right now, today, it would still be the most world-changing revolution that we've had, even bigger than the Industrial Revolution. And it's something that we're very at the beginning of. We're moving, there's sort of this curve, right, of adoption of technology. We're moving past the sort of frontier people, and we're moving toward the early adopters. So I wouldn't say you're late, because you're still at this little curve, and it's going to go up here to the majority, and then it's going to go down here and just be something you use every day. It's going to be like email. And so what we need to teach our kids is, like, how are you going to move through this when you're going to live in a future where this is something you don't remember ever living without? But yeah, stay curious. Teach them to be curious.
Helen, do you have anything you want to add to that, or you don't have to? I just, it's okay. That's true. You don't. You have a lot of puppies, though. I just want to add to that really quick, and then I think we'll probably wrap up our Q&A for timing's sake for everyone. When it comes to strategic planning, one of the things that I talk to my clients about a lot is, when we think about 3 years, is to stay flexible. And I think that this holds true even before AI, but I think it holds true even more now, is that, we come up with a 3-year plan, but that's not set in stone. And so one of the biggest things that I talk about with my clients is understanding what are the things that hold true for you? What are you passionate about? What do you want to be best in the world at? What are the things that you want to succeed in your business? And those things don't change because of AI. And those are the things that are your North Star in your business, and everything else is the tools and the way that you're going to get there. And those are the things that you have to be flexible with. And so if, as things progress, if something big happens and it happens overnight, then okay, we have a meeting, we assess, we see what are we going to do about this. And you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to do those things. And I think that is what that's really a leadership mindset. Right? You have to have the mindset of curiosity and all these things, but you also have the mindset of flexibility, because that's just the world that we're in now.
Yeah, it really has to be a change mindset.
Yeah.
We're not going to survive in this world if we have a fixed mindset. You have to be willing to change and adapt and open to something being different. But you're right, it doesn't change the goals that you're heading toward. It just might change the way that you get there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you guys. I have one more slide thing, but really quick, I just want to give a huge round of applause to our panelists. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for joining us at Profits and Pints. If you enjoyed this session, we'd love your feedback. Just click the link to fill out the quick survey. Your input helps shape future topics and makes this experience even better. Until next time, cheers to smart moves and great conversation.